morning sickness, insights into what causes it, and some new solutions. You're probably wondering what my qualifications are to discuss this. Well, I've been pregnant 7 times. I've watched my mother be pregnant several times. She had 10 children. I have 6 sisters, all of whom have been through pregnancy multiple times, and all of whom suffer morning sickness. I'm good at logic. I have a bachelor's degree in math. I studied law for my graduate degree, and I'm good at research in scientific study databases and good at pulling together the logic and making connections. I did a lot of research while sick and pregnant myself and basically immobile. I would stare at the screen for hours trying to find a solution to how I felt. And lastly, I am alive when a wealth of scientific knowledge is available. Lots of really smart people have pulled together some great information, and we can find it for free generally. And that's what I did. So first off, I'm not just talking about morning sickness. I'm talking about everything that makes you feel like you want to puke during pregnancy. There's a fancy name for this: nausea and vomiting in pregnancy, or NVP. It's not really morning sickness, as most pregnant ladies will tell you. It can be at any time of day or even all day. The extreme form of it is called hyperemesis gravidarum, and what that means is you throw up so much while pregnant that nothing is staying down. And sometimes just to stay alive, they have to give women IV nourishment when they're suffering from hyperemesis gravidarum. This illness, NVP, interferes with work. It interferes with the exercise we need to stay healthy, the eating we need to keep ourselves and our growing babies healthy, and then life and mental health in general. It's a horrible, horrible time for many women. Is there any recommended cure for morning sickness that helps everyone? It really doesn't seem so. There are prescription medicines like Zofran and Diclicus. There are more alternative things like vitamin B6, seasickness motion bands that press on acupressure points. There's ginger, which a lot of women after pregnancy kind of hate, me included, at least for a while. But it's really not surprising that nothing's working for all women, because we don't really know what's causing the nausea and vomiting in the first place. There's one medication in the 1960s that was very popular in West Germany that seemed pretty effective at helping women feel better during the morning sickness phase. Unfortunately, it turned out it was causing a lot of horrible birth defects and fetal deaths. We can learn from thalidomide, though. It is in use again now as a cancer drug. Why did it help with nausea and vomiting in pregnancy? We know now that thalidomide works by blocking angiogenesis, which is the formation of new blood vessels from existing blood vessels. So it resulted in limb malformation of the babies. You can't properly grow new arms and legs when you can't make new blood vessels for them. To carry out angiogenesis, the body needs hydrogen sulfide, or H2S. Hydrogen sulfide is then broken down in our bodies quite quickly to sulfite. Now, sulfite, if we ingest it, will tear up our stomach lining and the top part of our small intestine. If sulfite's building up in our stomach during the night, vomiting it out in the morning is the fastest way to protect the stomach. It's rather like syrup of Ipecac, which irritates our stomach lining and causes us to throw up, which is why it's frequently used as a cure for poisoning. Sulfite is supposed to be broken down to sulfate quickly in our bodies. This is usually done by an enzyme called sulfite oxidase. Sulfite oxidase is a molybdenum. It contains molybdenum. Molybdenum? What's that, you're asking? You're probably also wondering how to pronounce it. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Molybdenum is element 42 on the periodic chart. It's a blackish, silvery metal, and we eat it every day, at least when we're not so ill that we can't keep our food down. Where do we primarily find it? In legumes. Think lentils, garbanzo beans. It's in dried peas. It's in liver, but who eats that anymore, right? It's in whole grains like barley and oats. It's in cream, milk cream, and it's also in a few green veggies and some nuts in appreciable amounts. And it's also found in some multivitamins. What happens if there's too little molybdenum in our bodies? Then we can't make enough sulfite oxidase, and that means we will have too much sulfite accumulating. That means if we take in more molybdenum, we should, instead of having too little sulfite oxidase, we should have enough sulfite oxidase to break down sulfite more quickly and have less nausea and vomiting. There was a global diet study of nausea and vomiting in pregnancy done that backs up this idea. They found that pulses in whole grains were associated with less nausea and vomiting, while more nausea and vomiting was correlated with foods that have high amounts of sulfur-containing amino acids and or sulfites, either naturally occurring or added during processing. Are there pregnant women who are getting enough molybdenum and still getting sick? Yes, because the body can only handle so much sulfite, even if it's getting enough molybdenum. So, not only do we need enough molybdenum, we need to avoid extra sulfites. That would be wine, some beer, some dried fruits, bottled lemon and lime juice, some vinegars, molasses, sauerkraut, some dried potato flakes. I think pectin has it. Basically, look at websites about sulfites, read labels. Oh, and grapes. Grapes get treated with sulfites frequently, so look into that as well. Second, avoid nitrites. If we already have excess sulfite, then nitrite apparently ties up the enzyme sulfite oxidase too. Does this theory work? Well, soon after formulating it, I became pregnant, and I was able to test it on myself, and it did. Unfortunately, the pregnancy was anembryonic, which means no embryo ever formed, but I was sick and got to test it, and yes, it worked. Molybdenum helped very, very much. After that happened, I had a friend who was newly expecting, and she heard about my theory and didn't tell me she was pregnant, but altered her diet to avoid sulfites and eat more foods with molybdenum. She says she only got really sick once, and it was after eating some fast food. This was her second pregnancy, and she says it went much better than her first. Alright, so what exactly to do to apply this theory? First, avoid sulfite and nitrite additives in food. Grapes seem to be a big overlooked source of added sulfites. Second, eat more molybdenum-containing foods like legumes, peas, whole grains, some veggies and nuts. I found I really liked sipping barley water throughout the day during the first part of my pregnancy. Barley water has a decent amount of molybdenum, and you can sip it, which you sadly cannot do with lentils. Next, find a prenatal vitamin with molybdenum in it. There are some with quite a bit of molybdenum. You just look around, they're there. Then lastly, if your OBGYN has no objection, consider a low dosage molybdenum supplement. I would not go above 200 micrograms a day because I'm very cautious. This is still within a normal range of molybdenum intake. 1 cup of lentils has approximately 150 micrograms of molybdenum, and it's still far below the upper tolerable limit for molybdenum, which is 2,000 micrograms. Are there any dangers to taking molybdenum? Well, first, don't take more than you need. If 50 micrograms in your prenatal vitamin is doing the job for you and making the nausea go away, great. Second, don't exceed the tolerable upper limit, or even get close to it. I think when one is pregnant, one should be cautious and not take high amounts of any supplement. Third, I did come across one study in Mexico that found higher maternal molybdenum levels in the 3rd trimester were associated with psychomotor delay in the babies. However, they found this association to a level that's called significant in scientific terms by adjusting molybdenum for creatinine, which is an unproven approach in pregnancy and can be thrown off by a low-meat, high-bean diet. Such a diet is often associated with poverty. So it might be that this was just a sign of poverty. Nevertheless, if you're considering taking straight molybdenum in your 3rd trimester, please discuss it with your OBGYN first. Where to read more? Here's the title of my paper. It's been published already online in Medical Hypotheses, and in it you'll be able to find the 45 sources I use for this theory. Good luck to you.